Hey, Justin, back with you today. We're checking out how to play a C chord. Now, it isn't the easiest chord for beginners. It's one that I found particularly challenging, but I'm going to give you as many tips as I can to help you get your C chord sorted out as quickly as possible. So, this is what a C chord looks like. We've got our first finger in the first fret of the second string. The second finger goes down in the second fret of the fourth string. So actually, if we put the third finger down there, we'd have an A minor chord. So it starts kind of like that. But now, third finger is reaching around to the third fret of the fifth string. So that's already, for some of you, going to be a pretty tricky situation to find your fingers in. The first couple of things to notice. One, the angle of the fingers. So it's not this. If you try and play a C chord like that, it's really, really difficult. Getting the stretch between those two fingers and the first finger, I can kind of do it, but definitely not left-handed. This is a real difficult way of playing the C chord. So just note, see, by angling the hand there, you end up, it's kind of like you're putting the fingers, you know, it's a lot easier that way. It's not actually stretching, it's just changing how much curling up they're doing, okay? Now, the challenge with the chord, the first thing is that we don't want to play the thicker string. We want that note to be dead. So when we put the third finger down, the tip of the third finger is touching the thicker string as well as pressing down this note. So it's holding that note down and muting the thicker string. Now again, when you first try and mute that thicker string, you're going to find it pretty difficult. And don't worry about it if you don't get it on the first few days that you're practicing the C chord. As soon as you feel like you got the rest of the notes ringing out true, then start to worry about just when you get the C chord down, just move that third finger over just that little bit to be able to mute that thicker string, because it is kind of an important part of the making the chord sound good. Now, as well as that, the third finger has to be on the tip enough to let this note ring out. Because if the third finger lays down too much, you'll find that it mutes the fourth string. So it's got a bit going on here. I think moving it slightly higher so that it's muting the fifth string, that will automatically clear the way for the fourth string. This note on the fourth string shouldn't be too much of a difficulty really, that unless you got your finger too far back and you get it buzzy or you're not pressing hard enough. You should have that one all right. Open third string. If it's dead, it's almost certainly the underneath of the second finger laying down a bit too much, like that. So you just make sure you're lifting, again, just moving the hand slightly further forward. You know, only a few millimeters will bring it out enough. I know it looks like I'm touching there, but still there's this little gap here between the first finger, where the first finger meets the hand and the guitar neck. It's not touching. Looks like it's kind of touching like that, I guess, but there's ever so slight gap. Later on you might want to touch it, but at the beginner stage I would definitely recommend leaving a very small gap there. First finger, again, you should be fine with that. Make sure it doesn't creep too far forward and go a bit dead. And it needs to be right on the tip of the first finger, because you've got an open third string, the fretted note on the second string, and an open thinner string. You've really got to be on your the tippy toe, I was going to say, the tippy tip of your finger. Otherwise you're going to mute, if it's too flat, you're going to mute that thinner string. So as usual, we're going to be doing the strum. Pick out the strings one at a time, including the thicker string, which should be dead. And then when you've got them all happy, give it that strum. Most people find the C chord pretty tricky when they first encounter it. That's okay. You just got to persevere through that little difficult section. One thing that I think can really help is putting the fingers into the right place and then really thinking about this relaxed arm and the relaxed shoulder. Just trying to find a way where it feels comfortable. The fingers will be at an angle. If they're really square, that'll automatically put loads of tension into your wrist. So just having the fingers at an angle, a nice and relaxed elbow, relaxed, that's relaxed and loose together. Just really trying to keep that, you know, keep the feeling of it nice and comfortable, because that part of the challenge here is to find the right way for your anatomy to fret the chord easily. Okay, we're all slightly different, so we're all going to have slightly different challenges with the chord. Some people might find the C chord real simple. Great, awesome. Other people will find this like the hardest thing ever. You just got to find your way to get the fingers to sit right. And I think the key thing is that getting the fingers in the right place, and then just relaxing your arm and your hand and seeing if you can find a spot where the C chord feels pretty comfortable. Once you've got the C chord on its own, therefore the next kind of challenge becomes changing to it. So make sure that when you're doing your chord practice that you're doing the whole hand off and then finger 1, 2, 3 off. Yeah, I mean you're checking in between, checking all of the strings, but the actual removing of your hand and then trying to help it find its way back again is going to make it better when you start doing the chord changes like C to G or something like that, where you know, actually we don't start with C to G yet because we haven't done G chord yet, but C to D, for example, where all of the fingers have got to move quite a lot. It's not a super easy change unless you've got used to getting those fingers in position. It's just a practice thing, right? It is going to feel tough at the beginning, but you know, a couple of weeks practice, this one will be feeling just as easy as all of the other ones.